Warning. This episode contains foul language, depictions of racism, specifically during the civil rights movements of the 60s, and a brief mention of rape.
Listening to Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange, unusual, paranormal, supernatural, creepy, sticky, gross, scary, and everything in between. Each week we get to hang out, let our hair down, and chat about something weird. This week is a week we've been looking forward to for a long time. December is a great month to talk about women. December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus. December 7th, 1941, Captain Annie Fox received the first Purple Heart awarded to a woman for her service while she was under attack at Pearl Harbor. On December 10th, 1869, Wyoming became the first territory to give women the right to vote. December 14th, 1985, Wilma Mankiller is sworn in as Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, the first woman in modern history to lead a major Native American tribe. This month, we're going to be sharing stories of women in history who are amazing, who deserve to be known, but have been overlooked or overshadowed. My name is Ashley, and this is my co-host, Lauren.
Hello, weirdos.
And in the spirit of strong women everywhere, if you're a $10 patron, you hear her voice every week. Our guest today is the amazing Amy Hanselmann.
Woo. Hi, weirdos.
We have
Yay.
a guest.
We have a guest. We have a guest.
It's a
We have a guest.
miracle. We have a guest.
It's amazing.
We sing that song every time we have a guest.
Have you guys had a quarantine guest besides Joey since
Tyler.
Yeah, we did have
Schulte
Tyler.
came on.
Is that it? I think that's
Well,
it.
our only other guest this year was our very first guest. We had Carl on the show, and that was
before lockdown.
That was the
Yep.
week before we went into lockdown, and then we just the two of us.
Yep. And it's just been us every week. I mean, and I am shocked that we've made it work, because I feel like there were so many times we thought, man, we really need a guest in order to do this episode or make it interesting. But I think we've somehow carried on.
Yeah, it's been a nice learning experience, especially since we know we're not always going to live in the same city. And if we still want to do the podcast, we know that it's absolutely easily possible now.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
It is.
It is sort of sad because I like seeing people. And I mean, I think everyone's in that boat.
Yeah, we miss having guests.
Yeah, nobody else is feeling that way.
Only me and Lauren.
We're the only lonely people in the world.
Yeah.
Every time I hear people be like, I don't know, I think I'm going to wait to get the vaccine, I'm like, I don't care if they're like, yeah, the side effects are like your blood will turn into glass. I'm like, I don't know, man. That's like, is it deadly? Will it kill me?
Right.
Sounds worth it.
I know. I had a family member say, I'm a little skittish about the vaccine because what if it gives you a third arm or something? I was like, I will take a third arm because then I can hug my family even closer and even stronger with my third arm.
Well, and also I love that people are like, well, we don't know what the side effects of the vaccine are. We don't know what the side effects of COVID are.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather take the vaccine and have them be like, listen, your pinky toe died. You don't have a pinky toe. And I'd be like, okay. But like liver damage is potentially one of them. Erectile dysfunction, which obviously I don't care about, but a lot of people should.
Yeah, it's like in rare cases, crazy stuff is happening to people. And one of the most common symptoms that everyone's getting is the whole no taste, no smell thing. And for the majority, it comes back. But there are now people reporting that it's been like 6 months and their taste never came back. And like, that freaking sucks.
Yeah, their taste comes back, but they're saying that they can now taste and smell chemicals in things. So like
I did hear that.
Like a bottle of Coca-Cola smells and tastes like gasoline.
Right. That is true.
Yes.
Which is like, what the fuck is that?
I Exactly.
Yeah, those people need to move to Europe where they have like laws about the things that they can put in food, because here everything is just made out of arsenic and Windex.
All the damn chemicals you could ever imagine.
I hope I do live to see the day in 2060, where they're like, can you believe in 2020 human beings consumed this? And I'd be like, I was there. No one cared.
I was there for it. We survived.
We knew then.
Yep. We knew it.
Yeah, no, how did nobody know that it was bad to drink arsenic? No, we knew.
No, we knew.
No, we knew. We just
But we just didn't care.
We just
Because
loved
Coke is delicious.
Oreos.
Speaking of, I've eaten so many Oreos in quarantine, you guys. It's been me and Alex's like go-to snack, and then I sit and complain that I've gained weight and I don't know why, and it's the Oreos.
I just don't know why it keeps adding on.
It's the Oreos.
My only saving grace is that I don't like Oreos. It's probably like saved me from like being the size of a house.
Good for you.
I don't love Oreos either.
Y'all is crazy.
I know.
I think they taste like chemicals.
I mean, they
do.
do
They
a
don't
little,
taste
but I'm
like
into
real
it.
food.
I dip them in peanut butter.
What?
I dip them in peanut butter because
Right.
Lindsay Lohan taught me in The Parent Trap when she met her twin in the cabin. So now I do it, and it's delicious. Anyway.
You're just trying more and more every day to be more like Lindsay Lohan.
I mean, she's pretty great. Let's do it.
When you were saying that you dipped Oreos in peanut butter, I was like, do women deserve rights?
Should you be allowed to vote, Lauren?
Should you be allowed
Should
to
you?
vote?
Gosh, yeah, I'm not helping the cause, am I? My goodness.
All right, well, before we get started, I do have a couple shout outs. We got a few new patrons that joined right at the end of November, just squeezed in there. So thank you so much to Vanessa Schaffstall, Lindsay Maves, and Kelsey Kreuzberg. Kelsey, thank you for helping me with your name.
I saw that
Also-
message. I was like, she's so sweet.
Also, Vanessa, Lindsay, and another patron of ours, Kim Dart. We want to give you guys a huge shout out. They were the grand prize winners of our pumpkin carving contest. And we had the pleasure and the privilege of getting to hop on a Zoom call with them for about an hour and a half last weekend. And it was so much fun.
It was an absolute blast. Everything just happened so naturally and wonderfully. And the reason I have to even point out that it was a natural conversation is just because I think all of us were in agreement that we can be a little socially awkward and we're hopping on Zoom with complete strangers, but it was just a blast. It felt like we all had known each other forever. We had so much fun.
Yeah, it was great. We just talked about our favorite weird things when we first realized we liked weird stuff, conspiracy theories, paranormal experiences. It was great. We really had a lot of fun. So thank you, Lindsay, Vanessa, and Kim. And also thank you to Bree Henderson, who was another winner, and she got a free tank top.
Yes.
She was the one, Lauren, I don't know if you remember, with all the eyeballs.
Oh my gosh, yes. I feel like that
pumpkin
was
amazing.
I think that's one of the ones I texted to you. I was blown away.
And then, Amy, I know you had a few shout-outs as well.
I do. So if you guys want to support a couple of Denver makers of things, my friend Sam Doran paints cool things like skulls and flowers, and you can watch him live stream art on Twitch. His Twitch is twitch.tv/Sam Doran, DORAN, and that's Sam as in Sam. And you can buy prints at samdoran.art. He also made a painting of me at the beginning of quarantine. He was like, I don't know what to paint. And I was like, you're going to paint a painting of me. And he was like, what should you be doing? And I was like, and I panicked and I went, holding a sword. And so he was like, okay, take a photo of yourself like holding something so that I can like use it as a reference. And so there's all these pictures of me holding a wooden spoon.
I remember
sword.
you sent us the girl
Yes.
group over, and you sent us a picture of you
That
holding
is
the
so
sword.
funny.
And he painted a portrait of me holding a roll of toilet paper. and stomping out COVID.
Oh my
and holding a sword.
Okay, we're gonna need that so we can post it for everyone to see.
Yeah. Now, one thing I do have to say is that he was pretty upset with me because I did make him paint it on cardboard, so that I could just set it on my wall because I can't hang things. So it is not up to snuff as far as he is concerned, but I love it, and I will take a very nice photo and so that you can put it on Instagram, and maybe if you want, he'll paint a picture of you holding a sword and a toilet paper roll.
You could be next.
And then also my friend Abigail Butler is a very talented graphic designer. And so she runs Chirps and Cricket. It's a Denver-based design studio specializing in custom illustration and wedding stationery. Planning a wedding for 2021? Contact Abby on Instagram at Chirps and Cricket for a free wedding stationery consultation.
Awesome.
And she also has a website. It is chirpsandcricket.com. And even if you guys are not getting married, I don't give a shit about wedding invitations. I think they're so boring. Hers are so gorgeous. She's so talented.
I love that.
And she also does other things too. She doesn't just do wedding invitations. But
I am going to be planning a wedding, and I wasn't planning on having invitations, but I'll check those out for sure.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
that's true, Ashley.
I will make sure to @ you or something so that you
please.
make sure to check out her stuff because her stuff is so cool.
Love it.
And she would love to design your wedding invitations because she's obsessed with you.
So it's perfect.
Everyone help out your small business friends right now, especially with COVID and USPS being a kind of a disaster. I know a lot of my small business friends are really flailing. It's already hard enough to have a small business, so
definitely
when you're dealing with something like this where things like shipping times mean the world to someone with a small business, they're struggling right now, so support them.
Shop small this Christmas. Help them out. Don't go to the big places.
And if you were planning on donating any money to Joe Biden's transition team, instead, buy literally anything from anyone or support any Patreon ever or set your money on fire in the street because he has billionaires who are donating to his campaign.
You don't need to donate.
If you make less than $300,000 a year, you cannot afford to give to Joe Biden's transition team campaign.
Don't fall
That's
for it.
ridiculous. I'm still mad about that. Anyway.
That's good advice.
Hi, Weirdos. Popping in for a quick extra disclaimer, warning, what have you, for anyone who needs it. In this episode, we are going to be talking about a lot of historical events and facts that took place that have been thoroughly researched, I assure you, and may not be the way that you learn them in your history class. Now, some people would hear that and think, well, that's anti-America. But just because something you learned was incorrect, that doesn't make the truth anti-American. I was also taught incorrectly and had to relearn a lot of American and world history as an adult. You will also hear us express our love and admiration for women. This does not mean we are anti-man. We will express our respect and admiration for Black men and women during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. This does not mean we are anti-white. You can love something and not hate another thing. You will hear us use words like patriarchy because a patriarchal society is the reason why we were taught certain things and not the other in the context of today's episode. So again, I say this at the top because if at any point throughout these episodes it seems as though we are frustrated, angry, annoyed, whatever, it's because we probably are. And it's not political, no matter how much you want it to be. So enjoy yourselves. Please don't take offense if there are any jokes thrown in about women or men or sex or gender or politics. Those things are funny, and it's okay to laugh at ourselves. So have fun and enjoy learning new things. All right, so our episode today is all about amazing women throughout history. A lot of history, as we all know, has been majorly whitewashed, but it's also been sex-washed too. There are many examples, so many examples of women who either did something first, did something better, invented things, cured diseases, sent men to the moon, ended wars, and we don't even know their names. And I think that this is something we're going to continue to do with the show, not just with women, but with humans, with people who changed the world that deserve to be known. It's just today we're focusing on the ladies.
Okay. Hey,
who run the world, girls. And Lauren is actually going first today.
Hello. Have you guys...
Welcome.
Welcome to the show. I just got here. Have you guys heard of my lady? Because I know I had texted you her name. Had you heard of this lovely Filipino woman?
No, I had not.
Okay, good. I should have asked this way earlier before I even covered her, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't alone in, like, who is this woman? I was so excited. I'm going to be talking about a lady named Faye Del Mundo. She is in the world of medicine. I feel like we're all kind of covering different categories between these episodes. So I'm in the world of medicine. She made a lot of cool changes in the world of pediatrics, and I just think she's amazing. So, Faye Del Mundo.
She's also adorable.
She's so cute, you guys. I mean, Google her right now. Also, we'll post photos of her, obviously. We'll post photos of all of our women, but she's the cutest little Filipino lady in the universe. I love her. She was born in Manila in the Philippines, November 27th, 1911. She was the sixth of 8 children, so also, God bless her mother. And
oh, geez.
Very sad. 3 of her 8 siblings actually died in infancy. And then an older sister, who she was very, very close with, died from appendicitis at age 11. And it was the death of her older sister, who was very much, her best friend, her everything. This kind of gave her the push she needed to make her realize, with everything that was happening in her family, she wanted to go into the world of medicine. And not only did she want to be a doctor, but she wanted to be a doctor for the poor, because her family was not very well off for all of her life. And she knew she wanted to help children and families that couldn't afford proper medical care. She wanted to give them the ability to, still have a fighting chance and still be able to make it the way she wished her siblings could. So she was driven from a young age and basically thought, there is no other option for me, but I have to be a doctor and I have to change the world. So at age 15, she entered the University of the Philippines and earned a medical degree with highest honors in 1933, which puts her at age 22 about. So she was in school for about 7 years. She graduated with the highest honors, was valedictorian of her class, was a badass.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay,
I was like,
well,
get it,
she sounds
girl.
like a dork, but okay.
Dorks
She's a
can
big
save
old
the
dork.
world too.
Dorks can save the world.
Look at Clark Kent.
She definitely is a super nerd. Yes, she is.
He
like
did not need those glasses.
He can't see without his glasses.
Oh my gosh, I saw the best TikTok the other day of a guy who took off his glasses and his girlfriend played along so well. He was talking about Superman and how it makes no sense that his glasses were his disguise. But his girlfriend steals the show, and as soon as he takes the glasses off, she's like, "Who the fuck are you? Get out of my apartment!" Like starts screaming at him, and he puts the glasses back on. She's like, "Oh my god, babe, who was that?" And it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Just appreciated her commitment so much. Okay, anywho, so she's Clark Kent is what we're getting at, basically. Huge nerd. I think she wore glasses.
I did look up a photo of her, and she's wearing gigantic glasses, and she is maybe the cutest person of all time. Anyway, go on.
I can't handle her. She's so cute. So she graduated, again, at 22, highest honors. I think of where I was at age 22, doing a whole lot of nothing. And it makes me really happy for her. I was such a dummy. I was doing nothing.
I was a millionaire.
I was counting all my money.
Amy's really falling apart.
So Del Mundo received a scholarship offer from the president of the Philippines at the time, Manuel Quezon, had this much faith in her that he gave her a scholarship, granting her admission to any school in the United States that she wanted to get her master's at, which, like, excuse me? The president believes in you that much that he's giving you the means to continue your education in the United States. That is phenomenal. So she headed to America, where she went to graduate school in Boston, and in 1940 she received her master's degree in bacteriology from the Boston University School of Medicine.
Which, by the way, was the first university in the United States that opened a women's school of medicine. Go on.
Hey ho!
All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that you're mentioning that too, because this part of her life gets a little wonky because literally almost every website you look at says different things. And it's kind of unfortunate because she was actually honored in 2018 on Google. You know how Google does their little doodles honoring somebody?
Yeah.
They did hers back in 2018, which I completely missed. Like, I don't remember this, but in their little excerpt on her, they said she was the first woman to ever attend Harvard's medical school. So every article you find, like the top ones that pop up if you're researching her, say she is famous because she was the first woman to attend Harvard Medical School. But if you dig a little deeper, Harvard was not letting women in until 1945. And then some articles will even try to cover that, and they'll say, yeah, but Harvard thought she was a male, judging by her application, so they let her in by accident. And then once they met her and saw how amazing her resume was, they let her in anyway, which wouldn't that be the best story ever? I wish that was the story. But Harvard has come forward saying, we have no record of her attending our undergraduate, like, medical school program or ever graduating, but we do have record of her doing a 2-year fellowship at our children's hospital, and she was amazing at that, and we loved her. So
Maybe that was it.
I think when you get down to it, that is what people are thinking happened, and it's still an amazing feat because women were allowed to go into the graduate school at Harvard. They had just started allowing women in around this time, but there still were very few. So her going there is still amazing. And also it is believed, again, the research is so wonky, which is unfortunate, but it is believed that she was the first Asian female to do Harvard's graduate medical school program. So that's still an amazing, it's all still great news, even if it's not what people thought. Yeah. She did do this fellowship for 2 years at the medical school, the Children's Hospital, in 1941. And she also, got her master's, as we were saying, at Boston University. So amazing. When she finished her master's and her fellowship, despite being begged to stay in the U.S. by people in the medical world who could see that she was obviously amazing, she did decide to return home to the Philippines because she knew her work was more desperately needed there. And that is why she is everything to me, because her heart was still set on helping children, and even more specifically, helping children in those poverty-stricken areas back in her country where she had seen the hurt and the pain in these people without electricity and living in shacks.
Well, and especially when it's like, you'll make a lot more money here. And she's like, I don't care. That's not why I did this.
Like, people were literally offering her dream jobs, like, that people were, that's what you can only aspire for, especially as a woman. Like, she was so sought after, she was so intelligent, such a hard worker, but she was like, no, I gotta go home to where my heart is pulling me. I'm doing it for my sisters and brothers that died. I'm doing it for my country. So she went back with her heart of gold and her brains of steel. I don't know if that's a saying, but it should be. And she is a brain of steel a good saying or a terrible one? Because it means she might have metal in her head. I don't know.
I mean, I thought of I thought like positive, like steel trap mind.
Okay, good. That's where I was going with it. Thank you.
Okay.
I love that. Okay, good. That's exactly what I was going for.
Oh, as it was coming out of my mouth, I'm like, this isn't a saying, but I'm doing it.
I think you were just thinking of the Man of Steel because we were talking about him earlier.
Man of Steel. You're right. Guys, she truly is Clark Kent. Okay. Heart of gold, brains of steel. She headed back to Manila.
Oh my god, now I'm just thinking of the Friday Night Lights tag. What is it, like? Open heart?
Oh, full heart. What
Clear
is it?
eyes, full
Clear
heart.
eyes, full heart,
Clear
can't
eyes,
lose.
can't lose.
Oh my gosh. That has to be the name of the episode, and no one will understand what it's about. Okay.
Open heart, steel trap brains.
Gold heart,
God
steel
bless the
brain,
Philippines.
can't lose. Oh my god. Okay. That was amazing.
Speaking of like another like very cool, very funny woman, Amy Schumer. Do you guys remember her Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Don't Rape sketch?
Yes.
She's like it's like a football coach being like, don't rape. And the guys are like, but what if we're having sex and during sex she decides she doesn't want to? And he's like, that's rape. You can't do it. And he's like, well, what if she's so drunk she doesn't remember? It's like, that's rape. You can't do it. And
it's just so good. And then she comes in at the end with a giant glass of wine.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that the same one?
She's playing Connie Britton. Britton character.
Oh, yes.
She's like, come on home, coach. And she has like a life-size, like giant bottle
We're
of
making
wine.
a difference. Yeah. Anyways, she's going back to where, Manila?
Yep. We're back there. She heads back home, guys.
Okay. All right.
And her first, we're going to keep it together, everybody. We got this. Her first big contribution after returning home was her way to help families in rural communities without electricity. She invented a bamboo incubator in 1941, right after returning home. This is crazy, you guys. So she, I guess, made her makeshift incubator composed of two native laundry baskets that were made of bamboo. They were two different sizes, and she would place one inside the other, and then put hot water bottles all around between the baskets to regulate the body temperature of newborn babies who couldn't, if the families could not afford to go to a hospital or didn't have power. She made this little incubator, and then she was quoted as saying, I put a little hood over the top and attached oxygen for the baby. We basically had to make do with whatever was available. And it was reported that it was Del Mundo's objective the second she got home to make inventions that are inexpensive and can basically be used anywhere by people with limited access to medical centers, which is a huge portion of the country. So she was able to make these little newborn baby incubators to regulate temperature of children who were having issues. And her research and this development during this time actually led to the incubator that we know today, and that is in hospitals because of the research and all of her findings. She also contributed greatly to how we treat jaundice in babies today, which also involves, children being in like a heated incubator, and also involves some lighting just to help their skin regulate and get back to normal. So she, because of what she was doing for these poor families, led to that, which I just think is crazy, because babies have to be in incubators all the time after they're born like that. She is a huge part of that, and I don't feel like you see her name attached to it ever. Of course not.
No, and it's two amazing things, because one, she invented the incubator, and two, name a cuter thing than a baby in a basket.
In a bamboo basket
with hot water bottles.
Literally name a cute
hot water bottles.
Hey, listeners, please write in with cuter things and send pictures, because you know what? We all need it. And Ashley will post it on Instagram, because we all need if you can come up with something cuter, I fucking dare you.
I know.
I double dog dare you. That is your assignment for this week. Come up with something cuter than a baby in a basket.
The only thing I can think that might be cuter is a baby cuddling with a puppy inside the bamboo incubator.
Yeah.
Then I might pee my pants, but...
Yeah, but it depends on the dog.
True.
Oh, you're
Some
right.
are ugly.
Ooh, it has to be
it's
like
a pug. Ugh, no thank you.
What if it's like a little lab puppy?
Oh,
like a little.
Oh, jeez.
That might be too much.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Women can vote again.
Oh, thank God we put the Oreos and peanut butter behind us. My God. Okay, we have to move on before I cry anymore. Okay, so remember, this is 1941 when she came back. So she gets back to the Philippines, and shortly after, the country becomes occupied by Japan. We're heading into World War II. So, of course, because she's amazing, she joins the International Red Cross's volunteering team for the children who are detained at this internment camp. It was called the University of Santo Tomas Internment Camp. And she's an angel. She is the first one to go there and realize the children are getting zero care. The adults are getting some care, obviously not amazing. They're in an internment camp and people can only do so much. But she created this whole program that focused on the children internees. And she decides to get herself a little cot and live there.
Wow.
She has no home. She's living in the camp with all of these kids, taking care of them. And while she stayed there, she even made a makeshift hospice within the campus that was taking care of those in making them as comfortable as possible for anyone that had an illness that just, couldn't be treated anymore and they really just needed to be comfortable. So she made that herself out of whatever she could find. And because of her constant work and dedication, she became known as the Angel of Santo Tomas. All of the families loved her. She was their guardian angel from above. And she was the person making sure that these young children were receiving care, as previously, like I said, only the adults were really getting the treatment, and it wasn't the greatest. But, of course, sadly, 2 years later, not surprising, after she established this hospice and this children's area, the Japanese shut it down. And they shut it down basically just as they had shut down any well-functioning operation having to do with this internment camp. But this then made the Manila mayor at the time ask Del Mundo if she could set up a government hospital, because he thought, hey, if you want to still treat these children, just do it under the eye of the government. It will all feel more official and you won't get shut down. So she agreed, and she became the director of this hospital that ended up opening its arms to many, many children, but also to fallen soldiers during the Battle of Manila when, they needed extra care. They just jam-packed the place because she said, whoever needs care is going to get it. That is what I'm about. She invited everybody in and remained the director of this whole-ass hospital until 1948. Yes,
wow.
Girl. She was in there for years. However... And this is going to make you guys really love her. No, it's good.
Okay.
This one's good. This is good news. No, it's a however, because I was like, yes, girl, director of the hospital. But she started to get really distressed with the constraints of working for the government. And she decided, I hate working for the man. So Del Mundo left and started her own private hospital because she's like, screw this, screw the patriarchy. And I love it. So she started her own thing. She got her own private hospital, which of course centered on children's needs, her heart and her soul, and it became known as the Children's Medical Center in Quezon City, the Philippines' first pediatric hospital ever.
Oh, wow.
Because she's a baddie. So I thought that was great.
She rules.
She rules. And even cooler, the hospital was funded by almost everything Del Mundo owned at the time. She sold her home. She sold all of her things aside from her medical paraphernalia that she would need for the hospital. And then she opened the doors in 1957 on her birthday. And it was reported that even shortly after the hospital opened, she moved into a new house and then sold it again in order to build her hospital's adult wing. And then she moves into another house and sells it a third time almost instantly after a few months to fund yet another unit of her hospital, which is the Institute of Maternal and Child Health. And with such dedication expanding the hospital and needing to constantly fund it with her own money, she decided she would just live at the hospital because who needs an actual house? I just want this place to thrive. So she found a little living quarter for herself on the second floor, and she lived and served there until her death, like literally rolling around in her wheelchair on all the different floors as a 99-year-old woman, checking in on patients, making sure everyone had what they needed. And she died just a few months shy of her 100th birthday in 2011 from cardiac arrest, died in her bed. And the hospital is now named the Dr. Fe Del Mundo Children's Medical Center Foundation.
Wow.
After her and working until the very day she died. And she's just the best. I love her.
Yeah, here's the only thing I don't like about her. She makes me feel like a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, amen.
Like a total, absolute garbage person.
Yep. I
because
know.
I'm like, it's cold in my apartment.
I know.
Why does this happen to me?
I feel like so many times in her life, she didn't even have an actual home, so she could just continue to serve at every hour of the day. I'm like, I have none of that in me. I love being comfy, cozy, and sleeping as long as possible. And also, if anyone noticed, I didn't talk about her personal life at all because there wasn't one. Like, she never got married, she never had children, and she was quoted many times saying, like, I don't have time for a marriage. I don't have time to start a family. My life, I was put on this earth to serve. That is what my life is for. I will keep creating, I will keep building, and I will keep serving the people who need medical help. And that was it. That's what she wanted to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, like, she sounds really amazing, which means she probably was a lesbian.
She could have
Oh,
been,
that's
100%.
true.
So
She had
probably
a-
she was just gay, and I want her to have had the hottest love affairs with the sexiest ladies
Yeah, she
Can
had
we-
a
Who,
she had a Boston marriage.
knew how to cuddle.
Because we know, like, we won't find that if we research her, can we just, like, speak that into the world and have that
Yeah.
rumor
Just
get started
manifest
that,
it.
like, she was known for just having these amazing affairs with hot women? Like, that was it.
Yeah, and yeah, they'd be like, "Oh wow, this lady is Beyonce wishes that she looked this good." Okay, what's a Boston marriage?
A Boston
actually?
marriage is what they called the cohabitation of two wealthy women back in the day, back in like the late 19th, early 20th century, when like two wealthy women would decide, like, because at the time, if you married a man, he owned what you had.
Right.
So, especially if you were a woman with inherited wealth and you weren't like in love with someone, it was like, no, like, I don't have a need for a man. But a lot of these women would, live with other women, and some of it was just completely platonic. But they
Right.
started referring to like pretty much any woman who did that as a Boston marriage. And for whatever reason, even though, homosexuality was taboo, this setup, because it was basically like a traditional marriage, because they did sign their things together. I don't think it was like a wedding, but like they did tie their finances together. It was totally
Yeah.
accepted, and they weren't outcasts. It was just a
Right.
Boston marriage.
The Boston marriage. Thank you for
Yeah.
that education.
Apparently, most of the time, these women were like very wealthy. So then it started being called, I think, like Wellesley marriages, something like that. Like it got a
Oh,
very
yeah.
like
Well, that makes
hoity-toity
sense.
name.
It got fancy.
Why the fuck else would you go to Wellesley if you're not gay?
Yeah, gay and rich.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously rich.
Before we do move on from Faye, I just want to list some of her amazing firsts, because everybody likes to say she was the first female that went to Harvard University, and unfortunately we've kind of learned that's not fully true. It's kind of like true in a way, but I wanted to shout out all of the firsts that she did accomplish really quick.
Please.
She was the first Filipina to head a government general hospital, 1945. First Filipina to be certified by the American Board of Pediatrics as board diplomat, 1947. Founder and first president of the Philippine Medical Women's Association, 1949 through 1954. First female president of the Philippine Pediatric Society, 1952 to 1955. First Filipina and first Asian elected president of the Medical Women's International Association. That's like the big one, 1962 to 1966. First female president of the Philippine Medical Association, 1969 to 1970, first Filipina national scientist named in 1978, and the editor-in-chief of the Textbook of Pediatrics and Child Health, written in 1982. That book is still being used in medical schools across the world today.
Wow.
Okay, well, I take it back. She did not have love affairs. She was way too
She
busy.
was far too busy.
She actually truly might have been too busy. I like to think that maybe in school, between the studying, like to let loose, she could have had an affair, but
Yeah.
I feel like once she like got to work back in the Philippines, she had no time.
These are
Yeah, who
also the stories. These are the people that I always refer to when you're talking to someone about like the meaning of life or like the meaning of humanity or how everything happens for a reason. Because there are some people that are like, that's fucking bullshit. Why would an 11-year-old girl have to die of appendicitis? Like, what did her life mean? And it's like,
Right.
well, look at what she inspired.
Look at what her sister did because of it.
She wouldn't
Yeah.
have done that if her sister hadn't died that way. I mean, she might have, but like
Right.
it was set in stone because her sister died at such a young age. So you can look at those horrible, horrific things like, what is this? But like, look at the things that it inspires other people to do, and maybe
Totally.
that's where that meaning comes from. Or, nothing means anything and we're floating on a fucking rock in the middle of space. Like, I don't fucking know. But that's
Sure.
always what I tell those people who are like,
No, I love
there's no
that.
meaning. It's like,
I was
there
thinking
is.
that too, because it's like, yeah, of course in death, there's so much mourning, there's so much grief. It sucks. It's difficult. Like, no one is going to be happy about it. But it is so true that because of her sister, I do think that's what pushed her to live this amazing life. I think, sure, she probably would have become a doctor. I feel like that was kind of instilled in her from the beginning, and she seemed very intelligent, kind of just one of those people that from a young age just had it in her. But I don't know if she would have gone as hard as she did and said, my fight is going to be for children, if it hadn't been for her sister. And that, it seems like the pediatric world needed her in so many ways. So yeah, I love that, Ashley. It's a good call.
Thanks. I'm pretty smart sometimes.
And I really like to focus on secret lesbians.
Amy's like, can we go back to the lesbian love affairs?
Can we just talk some more about how hot Filipino ladies are? It's just what I wanted her to have. Because I hope she was gay, because obviously women are better than men. And then also I want her to have had like some hot ladies.
She deserved it.
Just like hanging out with her. She did deserve it. If anybody deserves it, it's her.
It's Faye Del Mundo.
Faye. Faye is in F-E, right? That's how you spell Faye.
Yes, F-E. And I was like, I don't know if it's like Fe, but I watched a couple videos. Everyone was saying Faye. That's probably our American way of saying it. But yeah, Faye Del Mundo.
Well, she's amazing. Amy, it is your turn. Who are you talking about today?
I'm talking about Claudette Colvin.
Love her.
Yes.
I believe you both already knew who she was.
I don't know anything about her. I do know who she was, but I don't like. That's it. That's the extent of my knowledge.
I know like very much the basics. Like, bring it on.
This is basically what happened. I was like, hey, do you guys... I like posted a thing on my work Slack, and I was like, hey, just quick query. Do you guys know who Claudette Colvin was? And everybody was like, yes, but all we know is this one thing. You should talk about her on your podcast. And I was like, okay. Yep. So Claudette Colvin was born on September 5th in 1939 in Montgomery, Alabama. And believe it or not, being black in Alabama back then was a bummer.
What?
Because being black in Alabama today is a bummer. Being white in Alabama, like being in Alabama, is a bummer.
Being a person in Montgomery,
being alive
Alabama.
In Alabama.
Being alive in Alabama, it's not great.
It's a bummer.
But so in March of 1955, she had been learning about the civil rights movement in school. So she went to a segregated school, and the one benefit of that was that her teachers actually really taught them about past civil rights movements, and they actually learned Black history, not like us, where they're like, Martin Luther King existed, and then everything was good, and he fixed it all, and then I don't know who shot him. Anyway, next question. We're going to talk about Vietnam.
Is over. Good night.
So she was taking a bus home from school and was sitting in the black section, and the white section of the bus filled up. So when that happened, white passengers could kick black people out of their section. Actually, black people were just supposed to get up. White people weren't supposed to have to say anything. Black people were just supposed to notice that the bus was filling up and move.
And just know to get up. That's infuriating.
Yes. And I'm sorry for pod-splaining racism, but like I don't know what the kids are taught in school these days about how the buses worked back then.
No, please do, because I do that all the time, where it's like, just for anyone who doesn't know, because there is someone out there who doesn't know.
Yeah.
So you
there are probably people who listen to this podcast and they were born in 2005, and I don't know, do they learn about racism nowadays?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably not, to be honest.
I don't know
what they learn about.
So a white lady got on the bus and was standing in the front of the bus, and the driver was like, okay, fucking leave. And Claudette was sitting with three of her friends, and the three friends got up and moved. And then this other black woman, Ruth Hamilton, who was pregnant, got on the bus and sat next to Colvin. So the bus driver, this is a quote from Claudette, he asked us both to get up. Mrs. Hamilton said she was not going to get up and that she had paid her fare and that she did not feel like standing. So I told him I was not going to get up either. So he said, if you're not going to get up, I will get a policeman. So even though her three friends had moved, meaning there were three open seats, and then this other lady came and sat down next to her. So there were two open seats. The white lady didn't want to sit in the same row as her because that would make them equal.
Oh, man.
Okay.
So history kept me stuck to my seat. I felt the hand of Harriet Tubman pushing down on one shoulder and Sojourner Truth pushing down on the other. So basically, the bus driver was like, okay, whatever. And then he drove, and then he saw a police car that happened to be parked. So he stopped the bus, and he was like, hey, you'll never believe this emergency. There's a teenager on my bus who is seated, and it's terrible, and it's a crime against humanity. So the police officers get onto the bus, and this is, I'm quoting her. One of them said to the driver in a very angry tone, who is it? The bus driver pointed at me. I heard him say, that's nothing new. I've had trouble with that thing before. He called me a thing.
Wow.
They came to me and stood over me, and one said, aren't you going to get up? I said, no, sir. He shouted, get up again. I started crying, but I felt even more defiant. I kept saying over and over in my high-pitched voice, it's my constitutional right to sit here as much as that lady. I paid my fare. It's my constitutional right. I knew I was talking back to a white policeman, but I'd had enough. One cop grabbed one of my hands and his partner grabbed the other, and they pulled me straight up out of my seat. My books went flying everywhere. I went limp as a baby. I was too smart to fight back. They started dragging me backwards off the bus. One of them kicked me. I might have scratched one of them because I had long nails, but I sure didn't fight back. I kept screaming over and over, it's my constitutional right. I wasn't shouting anything profane. I never swore, not then, not ever. I was shouting out my rights. So then they put her in their squad car. All ride long, they swore at me and ridiculed me. They took turns trying to guess my bra size. They called me, I'm not saying that, but you can guess what they called her, and cracked jokes about parts of my body. I recited the Lord's Prayer and the 23rd Psalm over and over in my head, trying to push back the fear. I assumed they were taking me to juvenile court because I was only 15. So I was thinking, now I'm going to be picking cotton. Since that's how they punish juveniles, they would put you in a school out in the country where they made you do field work during the day, which, oh my fucking God.
Ugh. It's so absurd. I'm so
instead of being taken to a juvenile detention center, she was taken to an adult jail, put in a cell with nothing in it but a broken sink and a cot with no mattress. I was scared. It was really, really frightening. It was like those Western movies where they put the bandit in the jail cell and you could hear the keys. I can still vividly hear the click of those keys. I waited 3 hours until my mother arrived with my pastor to bail me out. My mother knew I was disappointed with the system and all the injustice we were receiving, and she said to me, well, Claudette, you finally did it. So her reverend, the Reverend H.H. Johnson, bailed her out and took her and her mother home. I was afraid that night. I'd stood up to a white bus driver and 2 white cops. I had challenged the bus law. There had been lynchings and cross burnings for that kind of thing. Wetumpka Highway that led out of Montgomery ran right past our house. It would have been easy for the Klan to come up the hill that night. Dad sat up all night with his shotgun. We all stayed up. The neighbors facing the highway kept watch. Probably nobody on King Hill slept that night. But worried or not, I felt proud. I'd stood up for our rights. I'd done something a lot of adults hadn't done. On the ride home from jail, Reverend Johnson had said something to me I'll never forget. He was an adult who everyone respected, and his opinion meant a lot to me. Claudette, he said, I am so proud of you. Everyone prays for freedom. We've all been praying and praying, but you're different. You want your answer the next morning, and I think you just brought the revolution to Montgomery.
Wow.
So, the NAACP thought about using this case as a starting point for the bus boycott, but because Claudette was so young, and then later when they were still thinking about it, she ended up becoming pregnant, they decided to use someone else that Claudette knew very well. I became very active in her youth group, and we used to meet every Sunday afternoon at the Luther Church. Ms. Parks was quiet and very gentle and very soft-spoken, but she would always say we should fight for our freedom. Colvin said that Parks had the right image to become the face of the resistance to segregation because of her previous work with the NAACP. The organization didn't want a teenager in the role. They said they didn't want to use a pregnant teenager because it would be controversial and the people would talk about the pregnancy more than the boycott.
Well, you know, optics are a huge thing, even for civil rights movements.
Oh, yeah.
Even for things like that. Yeah. Like, you have to think about the optics. Like, you could easily be like, teenager, she was up to no good.
Oh, absolutely. And she even understands that. Like, she gets that branding is important. But also part of it was that Claudette was dark-skinned and Rosa Parks had light skin and, quote, good hair.
Oh, my gosh.
Right.
That has everything to do with it, which is so unfortunate, but true.
Right. But they knew that Rosa Parks was like somebody that white people would be like, oh, okay.
Yep.
That is a bummer.
She's not scary.
Yeah. We can be
right,
okay with
exactly.
this one.
So 8 months after Colvin refused to get off the bus, on December 1st, 1955, which is today.
Hello, it's today.
And also Ashley already talked about it. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat. On December 5th, the bus boycott started, and Black leaders met to form the Montgomery Improvement Association, electing a young pastor, Martin Luther King Jr. Ever heard of him as their president?
Never.
America.
So 40,000 Black Americans boycotted the Montgomery bus system. Black taxi drivers offered 10-cent rides to other Black people, and they started carpooling. The city was hurting, but they still refused to hire Black bus drivers and institute a first-come, first-seat rule. So then, like a year later, the NAACP asked Colvin to be part of a lawsuit against the Montgomery District Court. So the main plaintiffs in this case were Aurelia Broder, Claudette Colvin, Susie McDonald, and Mary Louise Smith. Janetta Reese had originally been a plaintiff in the case, but intimidation by members of the white community caused her to withdraw. So I went and I testified about the system, and I was saying that the system treated us unfairly, and I used some of the language that they used when they got taken off the bus. That case ended up going to the Supreme Court. They won, and that ended the segregation of buses in Montgomery.
Wow.
So she was fucked. She was known as a troublemaker. And everybody knew who she was, and she was basically unemployable. She had to drop out of college, and she ended up moving to New York City. And she loved it because it wasn't the same. You know, in Montgomery, she was like, yeah, things changed in Montgomery after that happened. But yeah, she was like, the buses weren't literally segregated, but white people still wouldn't sit next to us.
Right.
And basically, she just moved to New York. She lived her life. It was fine. She kind of never talked about her life. She was just like, whatever, it's New York. No one cares about anybody else. But as she got older, she was like, this is kind of bullshit that I don't get any recognition. And then in 2016, the Smithsonian Institution and its National Museum of African American History and Culture, or NAMAHAC.
That really easy roll off the tongue acronym we were looking for.
I know, right? Like,
that's what I needed.
They put that in there, and I was like, no.
No, thank you.
That's not any easier.
I'll actually just say the full name instead. Thank you.
So the museum was challenged by Colvin and her family, who asked that Colvin be given a more prominent mention in the history of the civil rights movement. So the museum has a section dedicated to Rosa Parks, which Colvin did not want taken away. But her family's goal was to get the historical record right and for officials to include Colvin's part of the story. She was not invited officially for the formal dedication of the museum, which opened to the public in September of 2016. All we want is the truth. Why does history fail to get it right? Colvin's sister said. Had it not been for Claudette Colvin, Aurelia Broder, Susie McDonald, and Mary Louise Smith, there may not have been a Thurgood Marshall, a Martin Luther King Jr., or a Rosa Parks.
Speak the truth.
In 2017, March 2nd, which is the day that she stayed on the bus, it was declared Claudette Colvin Day in Montgomery. And in 2019, a statue of Rosa Parks was unveiled in Montgomery. And 4 granite markers were also unveiled near the statue on the same day to honor the 4 plaintiffs in Browder versus Gale, including Colvin.
Oh,
and
good.
That is the story of the massive injustice of Claudette Colvin, who should be just as famous as Rosa Parks. And the thing I like most about her is that anytime people are like, what about Rosa Parks? She's like, I also like Rosa Parks. I met her and we were friends.
There's no part of her that's saying like, screw this girl, I'm the one. She's like, no, we just both exist, and like, let's give recognition to both of us.
She even said, she was like, I'm not mad that I didn't get the recognition that I deserve. I'm disappointed. And in 2016, she had already had a drunk history about her. So,
Yeah.
like, why are they acting like they don't know who she is?
That is a really good point.
The people who, you know, behave that way, who think like, oh, she's trying to take this away from Rosa Parks, are the same people that feel like something's being taken away from them just because someone acknowledges someone
Right.
else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when people are like, Black Lives Matter, and white people are like, and
But
it's like,
all the lives.
but me, and it's like, no one's taking anything away from you.
You're still good.
Yeah, but what
You're
if they
fine.
try?
Everything's fine.
Ugh.
But it's like, no, you're good. And also this is something I think is important, something we need to stress to children when we are teaching about the civil rights movement. Rosa Parks probably saw Toy Story.
She did.
Yes.
She died in 2005.
Somebody on TikTok said, I love that Rosa Parks has probably seen Shrek 1 and 2.
Yeah, so like people think that like this happened so long ago and our pat ourselves on the back like we did it, it's all over, and it's like she just died.
Right. This
Like
just
she died when
happened.
I was in high school. Okay? Like it was not that long ago. And there is a rumor or people like to say that photos from the civil rights movement were originally taken in color but shown in black and white to make them appear older. That's not true.
Mhm.
But because so many of them are in black and white, we just associate that with like it is decades ago, but like eons ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. Our parents were alive.
Right.
Like this was not that long ago.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I've seen is that Martin Luther King Jr., Anne Frank, and Barbara Walters were all born in the same year.
Ooh,
Mhm.
that's an interesting fact.
Yeah. So when you think about the way that we talk about those three people, like they would all be the same age, they would all be Barbara Walters' age
Barbara
today.
Walters
is she
is
still
still hanging-
alive?
she
I am
is.
so sorry.
I think she's
Okay.
barely hanging on, though, because you don't see much of her nowadays.
Barbara Walters.
She doesn't believe you. She has to look her up.
Well, no. I was looking at her age. She's 91. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she's up there.
I'm really bad at math, so sorry.
Well, also
that's
I have
pretty
to say
crazy to think
Rosa Parks was like 42. So that really bums me out because everybody's like, she was an old lady. And I'm like, was 8 years older than me.
Mhm.
So if we could just kind of cool it on talking about how she's basically a decrepit, elderly woman who's like, my feet hurt.
Invalid.
My feet. It is funny because I have always thought of her as an adorable older
Right?
grandma, and 42 is not far from where we are.
She looked
When
old.
we learned about her originally, we were very young
Yeah.
and we didn't know age. It was like
Totally.
she's 100 or maybe she's 20. Like we don't know because
Yeah.
age is not a thing to us yet
Right.
because we don't know about time.
And her outfit pointed to grandmother.
She was
but
wearing a
adorable.
grandma outfit, but that was probably by design. Because they
Oh, she was so
purposefully.
cute.
Because obviously, like I remember like being a kid, and my dad was like, "If I've taught you one fucking thing," he didn't swear at me. "If I've taught you one thing, it is that Rosa Parks was a freedom fighter. She was not some tired woman on a bus. That was a planned boycott. It was planned, and she knew what she was doing. And don't you take away that credit from her." It was very important to him. Which I'm
I
glad,
love that.
because I've like told people that I'm like, yeah, my dad used to yell that at me all the time. And they'd be like, this is the first time I've ever heard that she was not just tired.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fair, because what we
Because
learned
that's
is that
how
she was
it's
tired.
Told to us. I just think about the education that I got. I don't want to get into this too much. The education is shit anyway.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you can fit American history into 6 months
Yeah.
or 12 months or whatever it is that you're learning about American history, because there are so many things that are important. I mean, sort of. I feel like you could leave a lot of shit out, but there are so many things that they deem important. And then it's like, okay, the civil rights movement, we're going to go over that on Thursday and Friday. And then by Monday, and it's like, but we should spend a little more time on it, don't you think?
Right.
It's easier to say, like, she was tired and she didn't want to get up, and that's why, beep-a-doop-a-doop, and that's what made the white people and black people be able to ride the bus wherever they want.
Yeah, there has to be a deeper dive. We have to make more time.
How many weeks did you guys spend learning about Christopher Columbus and how he discovered America?
Oh, Jesus.
Dear God, it felt like the
Christ.
entire year of whatever grade I was in, like 4th or 5th grade, it felt like that's all we talked about.
Yeah.
The Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria.
Oh, yeah. I actually got into a fight with some dude because I was at some bar. This was obviously pre-COVID, it was a few years ago. And I was reading a book and he was like, what book are you reading? And I don't remember what. But he was like, oh, yeah, I just read a book about Christopher Columbus. It was really good. And I was like, that guy fucking sucks. And he was like...
Good for you.
And he was like, no, I mean, he discovered America. And I was like, he didn't discover anything. America was just here. When I went to Puerto Rico, I wasn't like, oh, cool, I just discovered this airport in San Juan. Okay. And I was like, and
true.
second, I was like, there are, writings from his diary where he talks about how the most sought after slaves were 11-year-old girls for sex slavery. But really, if you really wanted to make money, you'd sell 10-year-old girls or 9-year-old girls. And his response was, well, that was just the time. And I was like, no, it
Classic.
wasn't. Child rape was actually also bad then. People
It's
still were
always been
like,
bad.
maybe don't have sex with somebody who's prepubescent.
Right.
Also, they
Dear
also
Lord.
knew that like a lot of people were like, slavery's bad. Like white people were like, slavery's bad. Not all of them, obviously. But like, don't sit there and be
people
like,
were starting to say it. It was like people knew. They realized what was going on. So you can't just ever say it was the time if enough people knew that it was garbage.
yeah. I mean, to me, like being like, yeah, I read this really awesome book about Christopher Columbus. It was just the times. That's like being like, I read this really awesome book about Hitler. And here's the thing. You know, he was a really good artist, okay, first of all, and he just like wasn't
Not that
understood.
good.
I really wish he'd been 8% more talented. He maybe wouldn't have been such an asshole if he'd gotten into the
Also,
art institute or whatever.
Christopher Columbus accidentally arrived in South America
Mm-hmm.
and he thought it was India. So, what did he do really? What did he do really?
He did nothing. He did nothing. He was just a dumbass.
Apparently he didn't think that he was in India.
I think
Oh,
that
is
once
that a
he
lie?
landed, he was like, oh, this isn't India. But that's where he was trying to get to.
Yes.
So, like...
So he doesn't understand a compass and he's awful.
But also nobody cared when he was like, I'm going to sail around the world to prove that it's round. Everybody was like, yeah, we know it's round.
We
Like
don't give
no
a
one
shit.
cared. Like no one was impressed. Like I don't, because he did it for Spain, right? And he was like, "Can I have ships?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Yeah, I mean, go have fun dying. Like I don't care." And he's like, "I'm gonna prove the world is round." And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna prove that both my feet exist. They do.
They do. Here they are. No, but that's what pisses me off when you bring up the ships. Like, I hate that I had to study for weeks and make sure that I knew the answers for question number 1 on the quiz, which was what was the name of the 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. And I hate that that is like what I took away instead of learning about much better, more interesting, more fascinating, more giving to the world type stories. And instead, I know the name of those damn ships for the rest of my life and I don't care. Ugh. I'm mad.
Yeah.
Well, that is all the time we have this week for Keep It Weird. Thank you
That's how we
all
end it.
so much for listening. Next week, we are covering some more amazing, amazing women, and Amy will be with us again because we're
Yay.
about to record it right now after we take a pee break.
Woo!
If anyone is interested in hearing like 20 more hours of Amy, head over to our Patreon at www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. She is our podcast bonus episode host. You can sign up to be a $1, $5, or $10 patron, and depending on the tier you choose, you could get bonus episodes, newsletters, and discounts on merch, or all 3 of those things every single month. You can also just head over to etsy.com/shop/keepitweirdpodcast if you want to grab a t-shirt, tank top, hoodie, sweatpants, or even a blankie. And I think this might be the last week to order if you want merch by Christmas. So I would do that. Yeah, I put in an order today that said it would get to its destination somewhere between the 17th and the 25th. So if you want merch, do it right now.
Right this second.
Don't waste any more time. Follow us on social media at Keep It Weirdcast, including our Facebook group, which I don't even know how to give that to you. Just search Keep It Weird on Facebook, and the group photo is our moth. Now, question. Do we give advice, or do we sing us out with a song?
Have Amy sing us out with a song, because everyone really deserves it.
This is Amy's decision.
No, it has to be a song. We all need it.
Okay, I'll do a song.
Yes, okay.
Claudette Colvin, kept in the dark. She was overshadowed by Rosa Parks. She wasn't mad. She stayed gay. She got her own day. It's March 2nd every year. And we hope that Faye was queer. Oh, that's all the ladies we have today. Tune back in. It'll still be gay.
Yeah!
Yay! Oh my God.
Oh my God, that was the
so
best
good.
song I've ever heard in my life.
Thank you. I'm really proud of it.
And keep it weird.
And keep it weird.
They say that I see more children being buried than adults. So I felt we should do something about it.
One of the questions asked, why didn't you get up when the bus driver asked you and the policeman? I said I could not move because history had me glued to the seat. And they say, how is that? I say, because it felt like soldier on the truth, hands were pushing me down on one shoulder, and Harriet Tubman, hands were pushing me down on another shoulder. And I could not move. And I yelled out, it's my constitutional rights.